Animals like you should be locked in cages, not walking around places this luxurious. The slap came first, sharp, fast, loud enough to freeze the lobby. Elena Brooks staggered back, her cheeks stinging. Her briefcase hit the floor, papers scattering across the polished tiles of Helix Corporation headquarters. Patrick Doyle, head of security, stood over her with his hand still half raised. "Next time," he said coldly, "follow the damn rules." For a second, no one moved. The air itself felt trapped between shock and disbelief. Then came the murmurs, whispers behind the reception desk. Phones lifted, interns pretending not to record. Elena straightened slowly. Her eyes locked on Doyle's. "You just hit me. You pushed past me," he shot back. "I warned you twice. I told you I work here." He smirked. "Yeah? That's what every trespasser says before security escorts them out." She bent to pick up her scattered files, but his arm shot out, blocking her. "You don't touch anything until I clear it." A few papers drifted near his shoe. The top page bore the header, Helix Corporation, Executive Office of a CEO. Clara Vance, the lobby manager, rushed over, tablet in hand. "Patrick, what's going on?" She tried to force her way in. Doyle snapped. "No ID, no clearance, no patience." Clara glanced down, reading the letterhead. Her breath caught. Elena stood again, fixing her jacket. "Calm, controlled, dangerous. You're done talking." "Excuse me," Doyle barked. Behind her, the massive LED screen above the reception desk flickered and changed slides. Helix Corporation welcomes CEO Elena Brooks. Leadership Forum, 9 a.m. The letters glowed across the glass wall. The entire lobby froze. Someone gasped. Doyle turned to the screen, then back to Elena. His mouth opened, then closed again. She stepped closer, voice low but sharp. "Pick up every piece of paper you dropped." He didn't move. "Now." He crouched, fumbling to gather the files, hands shaking. "You'll spend the rest of the day explaining that footage to the board," Elena said quietly. "Every camera in this building caught what you just did." Clara stood frozen, watching the man who had just assaulted his own CEO. Elena took the briefcase from Doyle's trembling hands and slid the papers inside with practiced precision. "You have 30 minutes to write your resignation. If you don't, I'll have security escort you out." She turned toward the private elevator. The crowd parted silently. As the doors closed behind her, Doyle's reflection lingered on the mirrored surface. Hands still red, expression hollow. Upstairs, Elena walked into her office, set the briefcase down, and pulled up the security feed on her monitor. The footage replayed in high definition. The swing, the impact, the silence. She saved the file and renamed it. Incident, Lobby 8:12 a.m. Then she picked up the phone. "Legal," she said evenly. "Boardroom in 10 minutes. I want policy, protocol, and consequences on my desk before I walk in." She hung up. The sting on her cheek had already faded, but the memory wouldn't. Helix Corporation had just learned the cost of mistaking its CEO for someone expendable, and Elena Brooks never forgot a lesson worth teaching twice. The boardroom was already full when Elena walked in. Conversations died instantly. She didn't pause. She moved straight to the head of the table, set her briefcase down, and opened her laptop. "Start recording," she said. The words cut through the silence. No one argued. The red light on the wall camera blinked on. Across from her sat 12 executives, each worth more on paper than most small companies. None of them spoke. Elena looked up. "Patrick Doyle assaulted me in the main lobby this morning, in front of employees, in front of cameras, while representing this corporation." She let the sentence hang for a full second. "Legal, confirm the video's archived?" "Yes, ma'am," said Adrian Lee, General Counsel. Footage was automatically backed up to internal storage. "I've already copied it to a protected drive." "Good," Elena said. "Now we discuss what happens next." The chief operating officer shifted in his seat. "Elena, if I may, this might have been a misunderstanding. Security staff are trained to follow protocol." She cut him off. "A misunderstanding doesn't leave a red mark on my face." He looked down. "Helix has a conduct policy," she continued. "Section 5, subsection D. Physical aggression on company property regardless of intent, is grounds for termination. Immediate. No review period. The head of HR, a cautious woman named Teresa Morgan, cleared her throat. Technically true, but protocol requires internal investigation. I am the internal investigation, Elena said flatly. A few of the directors exchanged glances. Let's be clear, she said. This isn't about my pride. It's about the culture here. What message does it send when a senior employee thinks they can lay hands on someone without consequence? Teresa tried again. We can't appear reactionary. We already appear incompetent. Elena snapped. The entire lobby saw it. Half the staff probably has it on video. Silence. Adrian leaned forward. I recommend we suspend Doyle immediately pending formal review. It protects the company legally. Elena nodded once. Do it. Full suspension. No severance. No access to systems. The CFO, David Harper, adjusted his tie. If this goes public, media will frame it as a corporate assault case. You're the face of Helix. We need to get ahead of it. We will, Elena said, by showing accountability. How public? As public as it needs to be. I'm not hiding behind PR statements. Someone at the far end shifted nervously. Elena, maybe this should stay internal. The shareholders will see I run a company where respect isn't negotiable. The red recording light blinked steadily. Elena clicked a file open on her laptop and turned the screen toward the table. The lobby footage filled the monitor. Gasps broke the silence when the image showed Doyle raising his hand. The sound echoed through the boardroom speakers. Nobody moved. When it ended, she closed the laptop. That's what happened, she said. I don't want discussion about perception. I want decisions. Adrian spoke first. Termination effective immediately. HR will process the paperwork. Good, Elena said. And Clara Vance? The lobby manager? She hesitated to intervene. Elena said. That hesitation says something about our training. She keeps her job, but she'll complete new leadership and ethics training before the quarter ends. Teresa nodded quickly, writing notes. David Harper leaned forward again. If we're setting precedent, we need an official statement. Elena looked at him. Draft it. What tone? Professional, she said. But honest. Tell the truth. A member of Helix security staff acted inappropriately toward an executive. The company responded immediately and decisively. No spin, no corporate fluff. He blinked. You want the statement to say acted inappropriately toward the CEO? Yes, she said. If I don't hold myself to transparency, no one else will. Adrian gave a slight, approving nod. It's bold, but it sends the right signal. Elena checked her watch. Patrick Doyle is still downstairs. Security escorted him to holding until we decide. Teresa said, Good. I'll speak to him before he leaves the building. David frowned. You're meeting him? Personally, I believe in closure, she said. The COO muttered. You believe in consequences. Elena met his eyes. Exactly. The boardroom fell silent again. The meeting had lasted less than 15 minutes, but every executive in the room knew it would be remembered for years. Elena gathered her papers, closed her laptop, and stood. Adrian, HR stay. The rest of you are dismissed. Prepare for the press statement by noon. The directors rose quickly, eager to escape the tension. When the door shut behind them, only 3 remained, Elena, Adrian, and Teresa. Pull Patrick Doyle's entire employment file, Elena said. Every complaint, every evaluation, every disciplinary note. If there's a pattern, I want it exposed. Adrian nodded. Understood. And send the security footage to my office. I'll archive it personally. Teresa hesitated. Elena, are you sure you want to handle this yourself? You've been through an ordeal. Elena cut her off. This isn't about what happened to me. It's about who we let represent this company. She picked up her briefcase. Get it done. As she walked toward the door, Teresa called softly, What should we tell the staff? Elena paused. Tell them the CEO was treated like any employee would want to be treated, with fairness and accountability. She left without another word. In the elevator, Elena watched the floors tick down one by one. Her reflection in the steel panel looked calm, composed, unreadable. But her mind was already on the next step. When the doors opened, two security officers stood waiting by the hallway. Patrick Doyle sat on a bench nearby, hands clasped, eyes empty. He looked up when he saw her. "Elena," he started, voice small, almost pleading. "I didn't know." She stopped him. "You didn't ask." He swallowed hard. "I was doing my job." "No," she said quietly. "You were doing what you thought power gave you permission to do." His mouth opened, but no sound came out. Elena held his gaze for one last second. "HR will contact you. Security will escort you out." Then she turned away. Behind her, the elevator doors closed again, sealing the moment like a file marked finalized. Upstairs, the red light on the boardroom camera was still blinking, recording every second of how Helix handled accountability. And for the first time in years, the corporation felt exactly what Elena intended it to feel: controlled. By noon, the story had already leaked. Helix employees whispered across departments. The internal chat board was full of screenshots from lobby footage. Someone had uploaded a short clip, 10 seconds, just enough to show the slap. By the time Elena stepped into her office, her assistant was pale. "CNN Business just called," she said. "They want a statement." "They'll get one," Elena replied. "Has Harper finished the draft?" "Yes, ma'am. He's in the conference room." "Bring him in." David Harper entered with a tablet in hand, looking cautious. "I kept it simple," he said. "Crisis communication format." "Read it." He cleared his throat. "Helix Corporation regrets an incident involving a member of the security staff and an executive employee. The company has taken immediate internal action and remains committed to maintaining a safe and respectful workplace." "Stop," Elena said. He froze. "Delete the word regrets." "We don't regret. We act." He hesitated. "That's unorthodox." "So, is assaulting the CEO in front of 200 people," she said. "Keep reading." David swallowed. "We suspended the individual responsible and launched an internal review." "Incorrect," Elena said. "We didn't suspend him. We terminated him." "Say it." He blinked. "Publicly." "Publicly." He nodded slowly and rewrote. "The company has terminated the individual responsible, effective immediately, and has initiated a review of all security protocols." "Good," Elena said. "Now add, this organization holds every employee, regardless of rank, to the same standard of conduct and accountability." David tapped the screen, then looked up. "You really want this tone? It's not defensive. It's aggressive. It's honest." Adrian Lee walked in, folder in hand. "Legal approved the statement," she said, "but PR is nervous." "PR works for me," Elena said. Adrian smiled faintly. "I told them you'd say that." David sighed. "If we release this, it'll trend within minutes. We're acknowledging assault, termination, and leadership involvement." Elena met his eyes. "And if we don't, it'll trend anyway, without our version." He nodded. "Understood. Post it to the website and internal network. Then send it to every major outlet. I want it under my name." "Your name?" Adrian asked. "Not corporate communications?" "Yes." "CEO statement. Personal accountability." David hesitated again. "You're sure that's wise?" Elena gave a small, cold smile. "Patrick Doyle thought I didn't belong here. I want everyone to see exactly where I stand." Within 30 minutes, the statement was live. Employees' phones buzzed with a company-wide email. Message from CEO Elena Brooks. Accountability and respect at Helix. News outlets picked it up within the hour. CEO assaulted by own security officer. Immediate termination follows. Helix Corporation takes bold stand on workplace accountability. By 2 p.m., reporters were camped outside headquarters. Inside, Elena stood by the glass wall of her office, watching the crowd form. Her phone buzzed nonstop. Calls from investors, directors, reporters, and one name she'd been expecting, the chairman of the board. She answered on the first ring. "Elena," his voice came deep and sharp. "What the hell happened?" "You've seen the footage," she said. "I've seen a PR disaster." "You've seen leadership," she corrected. He paused. "You could have handled this quietly." "I don't run quietly." "Elena." "He hit me," she said, calm and level. "On camera. In our lobby." I responded with policy. "That's not PR. That's governance." Silence. Then, "The shareholders are nervous." They should be relieved, she said. For once, this company acted faster than the rumor mill. He exhaled through the phone. You're not wrong. But optics matter. Then watch the optics change. She ended the call before he could reply. By late afternoon, HR was flooded with messages. Employees sharing stories of past misconduct, mistreatment, ignored complaints. Adrian brought a printed summary to Elena's desk. 37 reports filed in the last 3 hours, Adrian said. Mostly anonymous. Elena flipped through them. Good. That means they trust the process now. Teresa Morgan from HR entered next, looking uneasy. Elena, the staff shaken. Some are scared, others actually proud. They should be, Elena said. We just set a new standard. Still, Teresa said softly, there's fear. People are saying, that leadership fights back? Elena asked. Teresa sighed. Yes, and that you're not someone to cross. Elena looked up. That's not fear. That's respect. They just don't know the difference yet. Teresa didn't reply. Elena continued. Schedule a company-wide address for tomorrow morning. 9 a.m. I'll speak live. Every department. Everyone with a badge. Teresa nodded and left. Adrian lingered. You're aware this makes you the story, right? I already was the story, Elena said. Now I control it. That evening, as the city lights came on outside, Elena sat alone in her office. The security footage played silently on her screen, the same 10 seconds that had already reached over 2 million views online. Her cheek was still faintly bruised, but she didn't hide it. She touched it once, then closed the file. A new email pinged from the chairman again. Subject, public response. Body, you made your point, but the board wants a formal review. We'll discuss your actions Friday. Robert. Elena read it twice, then hit reply. Subject, Friday review. Body, perfect. I'll bring the footage and the policy manual. See you then. She clicked send. Across the building, lights went out one by one as departments closed for the day. But the conversation didn't stop. Employees shared the video, quoted her statement, replayed her words. Some said she was ruthless. Others called her fearless. Everyone agreed on one thing. The company had changed overnight. In the quiet of her office, Elena looked out at the skyline, phone still buzzing with unread messages. She didn't smile. She didn't relax. She just whispered to herself, tomorrow they'll understand what leadership means. Then she turned off the screen and walked out, leaving the city to talk. At 8:59 a.m., every monitor inside Helix Corporation switched to the same feed. Conference rooms, factory floors, call centers, executive suites. All screens showed the Helix logo, then the words. Live, CEO address, mandatory viewing. In the headquarters atrium, nearly 400 employees stood in silence. Cameras, microphones, and bright white lights were already in place. Then Elena Brooks walked onto the stage. No music, no applause, just the sound of her heels on marble. She looked calm, navy suit, hair pulled back, a faint bruise still visible on her cheek. She didn't hide it. She wanted them to see. She stood behind the podium, adjusted the mic once, and began. Yesterday morning, an incident occurred in our lobby. No soft introduction, no PR tone. A member of our security staff struck me across the face after refusing to verify my identification. It happened in front of employees, cameras, and guests. I want to begin this meeting by confirming that what you saw, or what you've heard, is true. Murmurs rippled through the crowd. Some lowered their eyes. Others stared at her, frozen. Elena continued, steady. The employee responsible has been terminated. The company has reviewed the footage, and the decision is final. She paused. This isn't about embarrassment. It's about accountability. The sound of keyboards clicking filled remote offices across the country as employees live-streamed and recorded. For too long, Elena said, we've built walls between rank and respect, between who people think has authority and who actually deserves it. Yesterday proved that those walls exist here too. A man with a badge believed he could decide who belonged inside his company's building. He was wrong. She let that sit. Some of you were shocked. Some of you were afraid. Some of you were angry. All of those reactions are valid. But I want you to know this. You work for a company that doesn't hide its failures behind statements or committees. We face them. In the front row, several managers exchanged uneasy looks. I've heard people say this could have been handled quietly, Elena went on. But silence is how cultures rot. If someone can hit a coworker, or anyone, and expect secrecy, we've already failed. The crowd was dead still now. From this day forward, she said, Helix will operate differently. We're rewriting the code of conduct, from the boardroom to the warehouse. Any act of harassment, discrimination, or physical aggression will trigger direct executive review. No middle layers. No filters. Behind her, the LED wall flickered to life. New words appeared. Accountability is not negotiable. Elena turned slightly to face it. That's not a slogan, she said. It's a standard. A reporter in the back raised a hand. Ms. Brooks, do you believe this incident reflects systemic bias at Helix? Yes, Elena said instantly, and I intend to prove it. A collective intake of breath moved through the crowd. I've authorized a full external audit of our security division, HR records, and hiring data. No one's immune, including management. The same reporter asked, Won't that expose the company to risk? It'll expose the truth, Elena replied. And I can manage risk. What I can't manage is hypocrisy. A few people clapped, quietly at first. Then more joined. Elena waited until the sound died down. I don't need applause. I need change. She looked directly into one of the cameras. To every employee watching this from another city, if you've experienced misconduct here, report it. You will not be punished. The only people who will face consequences are those who break trust. She turned back to the room. Helix isn't just machines, markets, or profit margins. It's people. And if people don't feel safe walking through our front doors, then everything else we build means nothing. Her tone stayed calm, measured. Yesterday, one man decided he could define who mattered in this building. Today, I'm defining who leads it. Upstairs on the executive floor, the board of directors watched the broadcast in silence. The chairman, Robert Kane, leaned back in his chair, jaw tight. She's making this bigger than it needs to be, he muttered. Adrian Lee, sitting near the corner of the room, replied without looking up. She's making it honest. Robert glared. She's exposing us to liability. She's protecting the company, Adrian said evenly. That's leadership. Robert didn't respond. Downstairs, Elena finished the address. Every employee will receive an updated code of conduct by end of week. Sign it. Understand it. Live by it. She stepped away from the mic, but then paused. One more thing. The crowd leaned in. Don't mistake calm for weakness, she said quietly. I can forgive mistakes. I can't forgive arrogance. She walked off stage. No music followed. The room stayed frozen until she disappeared behind the curtain. After the broadcast, the internal chat feed exploded. She actually said it on camera. I've never seen a CEO own it like that. HR's dead quiet. Guess the old rules are gone. About time. Within an hour, hashtags began trending on social media. Hashtag Helix address. Hashtag accountability starts here. Hashtag Elena Brooks live. Investors called. Media analysts dissected every line. Employees replayed the moment she said, he hit me. For once, Helix didn't sound like a corporation. It sounded like a person with a spine. At 10:15 a.m., Elena sat back in her office, watching the analytics spike. Adrian entered, holding a tablet. You're trending on every platform, she said. Good or bad? Both. Perfect, Elena said. Adrian smiled faintly. You know this will make enemies, right? I already had them, Elena said. Now, they'll stop pretending. Robert Kane's furious. The board's calling for a review. I expected that. What's your move? Elena glanced at the muted live feed on her screen. Reporters outside the building, employees at their desks talking in low voices. We wait, she said. Let them come to me. Adrian hesitated. You realize, don't you, that if they want to push you out, they'll have to do it in public, Elena said. And after this morning, I don't think they're brave enough. Adrian nodded once. Then you just changed this company. No, Elena said quietly. I reminded it who runs it. That night, every major network replayed her address. CNN. Helix CEO turns assault into accountability movement. Reuters. Elena Brooks' speech sparks national debate on corporate power and transparency. Forbes, the most unfiltered CEO statement in modern corporate history. Even her critics had to admit the delivery was surgical. At 11:47 p.m., Elena sat in the darkened office, laptop open, replaying the feed one last time. The bruise on her cheek caught the light. The camera lingered on it for just a second before fading to black. She watched that moment twice. Then she closed the screen, whispered to herself, "Now let's see who calls tomorrow." And in the silence that followed, the whole city seemed to be waiting with her. Friday, 9 a.m. The top floor of Helix Tower was silent except for the hum of the air system and the faint tick of the wall clock. The boardroom was ready. Long glass table, 12 leather chairs, city skyline stretching beyond. Robert Kane sat at the head, gray suit, tighter than usual around the shoulders. Next to him sat Vice Chair Marjorie Ellis, flanked by the rest of the board. 12 people who controlled billions in capital and one agenda: contain Elena Brooks. The double doors opened. Elena walked in, no escort, no assistant. Navy suit again, hair tied back, a stack of files in one hand, tablet in the other. She didn't wait to be invited. She took the chair opposite Robert, set down her materials, and said, "Let's begin." Robert didn't hide his irritation. "You're 5 minutes early." "I don't like surprises," Elena said. "Neither should you." A few board members exchanged glances. Robert cleared his throat. "This session is called under Article 6, Section 3 of our bylaws, Performance Review of the Chief Executive Officer. The purpose is to evaluate recent decisions made without prior board consultation, including my public address," Elena said. "Exactly." His voice was sharp. "That speech cost the company $20 million in market value overnight. It added $42 million back in employee retention and brand trust," Elena replied. "You can check the data." "We're not discussing morale metrics," Robert snapped. "We're discussing governance." "Then let's discuss it," Elena said calmly. "Because what happened last week wasn't a governance issue. It was a human one." Marjorie leaned forward. "You bypassed the board. You authorized legal actions, terminated senior staff, and spoke publicly on behalf of the corporation without approval." "I didn't need approval," Elena said. "I followed policy. Section 5. Immediate action required in cases of workplace violence. You signed that clause, Marjorie." Marjorie froze, caught. Robert intervened. "Don't quote the handbook at us. Then stop pretending it doesn't exist." The room went still. Robert folded his hands. "You embarrassed this company. The footage, the statement, the broadcast. You turned Helix into a social media spectacle." "I turned Helix into a company people trust again," Elena said. "There's a difference." One of the older directors, Alan Ricks, spoke for the first time. "Let's not dance around this. The shareholders want to know if we still have a CEO capable of managing risk or a liability with a microphone." Elena looked straight at him. "You think the liability is the woman who got hit, not the man who hit her." Alan shifted uncomfortably. "You're twisting it." "No," she said. "I'm correcting it." Adrian Lee, sitting behind her as legal counsel, slid a folder forward. "If I may," she said evenly. "This folder contains last quarter's compliance summary. Following Ms. Brooks's decisions, Helix's internal complaint resolution rate rose from 61% to 94%. Employee attrition dropped by 11%. Productivity increased by 7%. Robert shot her a glare. "We didn't ask for statistics." "You should have," Elena said. "Because numbers don't lie, even when people do." Robert's jaw tightened. "We're not here to argue your management philosophy, Elena. We're here because you acted unilaterally. You exposed us legally." Elena leaned forward. "You mean I exposed behavior you ignored?" Silence. Robert exhaled. "You're not untouchable." "Neither are you," she said quietly. The words hung like a blade in the air. Marjorie interjected. "Elena, the board's considering a motion for censure. Possibly suspension." Elena nodded slowly, as if she'd expected it. "Before you vote, I'd like to show you something." She tapped her tablet. The wall screen came alive with security footage from the Helix lobby. The slap, the silence, the frozen crowd. Robert scowled. We've seen this. Not this part, she said. She switched to another clip. Internal security feed from the boardroom hallway, dated 2 days before the incident. Patrick Doyle standing with 2 security supervisors, laughing. Her voice came through faintly. If that woman thinks she runs this place, she's got another thing coming. Gasps around the table. Elena let it play, then paused the video. That's your security culture, she said. The one you told me not to expose. Marjorie's face went pale. Where did you get this? I run the company, Elena said. Every feed reports to me. Robert's tone turned icy. This doesn't change the fact you bypass governance. It proves why I had to, she said. The system failed. I didn't. Alan muttered. This is getting theatrical. Elena looked at him. You call true theater because you've never had to live with consequences. Adrian cut in before Robert could speak. Before this board proceeds, you should know the DOJ contacted us yesterday. They've opened an inquiry into Helix's prior internal investigations. They cited Ms. Brooks's response as evidence of corrective leadership. Robert's head snapped toward her. They what? They're calling Helix a model for corporate accountability, Adrian said. It'll be public by next week. A wave of murmurs spread around the room. Elena didn't move. So before you vote to suspend me, remember that firing the CEO of the Department of Justice just praised might look unwise. Robert's face flushed red. You're threatening the board. No, Elena said. I'm warning it. Marjorie exhaled shakily. Robert, maybe we should. He slammed a hand on the table. We're not bending to optics. Elena stood up slowly, then bend to reality. Her tone stayed calm but cold. You build a culture where authority means humiliation. I built one where authority means accountability. That's why the public believes me, not you. She reached for a folder and slid it across the table. Inside is a list of internal complaints against senior management. 23 in total. Most were dismissed under your oversight. I reopened them. Robert stared at the folder but didn't touch it. Every one of them will now go to an external ethics firm, Elena continued. And every reporter outside this building will know it's happening. Marjorie looked from her to Robert. We can't suppress that. Elena's voice dropped. That's the point. Robert's hand trembled slightly. You think you can intimidate this board? I don't need to, she said. You're already scared. No one spoke. The room, so often filled with self-assured men dictating decisions, now felt smaller, like the air itself had thinned. Robert finally spoke, voice low. If you stay in this chair, you'll make enemies. Elena smiled faintly. Already did. Now they'll have to work for me. Adrian leaned back, eyes unreadable. Marjorie closed her notebook slowly. I move that the board withdraw consideration of censure, she said. Alan blinked. What? Marjorie met his eyes. You want to fight a CEO who just turned a PR disaster into federal recognition? Be my guest. I'd rather keep my stock options. Several heads nodded. Robert looked around the table. 12 votes, already slipping from his control. He knew the math. He'd lost. Elena watched him in silence. Finally, he said through clenched teeth, motion withdrawn. She nodded once. Good. Then let's get back to work. He glared. You think this is over? She turned toward the door. For you, it's just starting. Outside, Adrian caught up with her in the hallway. You planned that, she said. Elena didn't deny it. I prepared for it. You had that video ready before you even walked in. Elena stopped. You don't walk into a room full of men who built the system unless you already know how to burn it down. Adrian smiled slightly. And now we rebuild it. They walked toward the elevator together, the glass walls reflecting the skyline beyond. When the doors closed, Elena said quietly, Tell comms to issue one line. The board has reaffirmed its full confidence in CEO Elena Brooks. Nothing more. Adrian nodded. And Robert Kane? Elena's eyes stayed fixed on the floor numbers. He'll resign within a week. He just doesn't know it yet. The elevator doors opened. Another day at Helix was about to begin, but this time, everyone in the building knew exactly who was in charge. Monday morning, 3 days after the review. Helix Tower was quiet, but the world outside wasn't. News trucks lined the street, cameras flashing as executives arrived. The headline looped on every screen in the lobby. Helix board withdraws censure. CEO Brooks retains full control. Inside the power clash that shook corporate America. Inside the building, people moved differently now, quieter, sharper, more alert. Every word felt recorded. Every glance could end a career. Elena Brooks stepped out of the private elevator, flanked only by her assistant. No entourage, no security. She didn't need any. Status, she asked. Her assistant, Maya Grant, handed over a tablet. All major outlets ran with a board statement. Stock rebounded 6% overnight. Employee satisfaction metrics spiked again. 50,000 internal messages tagged #accountability works. Robert Kane, Elena asked. He canceled 3 meetings. Legal says he's been calling individual directors. Elena nodded. He's trying to count votes that don't exist. Maya hesitated. Do you want me to prepare a public comment? No, Elena said. He'll comment for me. Across town, Robert Kane sat in his penthouse office, phone pressed to his ear. The city stretched behind him, glass and smoke, the same skyline he'd once looked down on like a throne. Marjorie, listen, he said, voice tight. She blindsided us. You saw what she did. Ambushed the board with evidence. Marjorie's voice came cold through the phone. Evidence that was accurate. It doesn't matter. She humiliated us. She saved us, Marjorie said. The DOJ announcement turned everything. If we'd suspended her, Helix would be facing federal oversight by now. Instead, we look progressive. Robert's jaw clenched. Progressive isn't profitable. Neither is your arrogance, she said, and hung up. He stared at the silent phone for a long time. His reflection in the window looked older than it had a week ago. The first cracks were showing. At 10 a.m., Elena met with Adrian in the executive office. Adrian placed a file on the desk. The independent ethics audit began this morning. They're pulling data from the last 5 years. Good, Elena said. I want transparency, not theater. Adrian smiled faintly. You already have both. A notification blinked on Elena's laptop. A breaking news alert. She opened it. Anonymous source reveals past misconduct allegations against Helix chairman Robert Kane. She read it once, then again. That was fast. Adrian raised an eyebrow. You didn't. No, Elena said. But I didn't have to. Adrian exhaled slowly. He's finished. Elena closed the laptop. Not yet. He'll try one last move. By noon, Robert did. He walked into the building through the underground garage, face tight, flanked by his personal aide. He went straight to the press floor, where cameras had been waiting since morning. A journalist called out, Mr. Kane, do you still have confidence in CEO Brooks? Robert didn't answer. Another shouted, Are the reports true that you're resigning? He kept walking, but the silence said enough. By 2 p.m., every outlet ran it. Helix chairman refuses to deny resignation rumors. Upstairs, Elena watched the live feed from her office. Maya hovered nearby. Should we issue a statement? Maya asked. No, Elena said. Let him twist. She closed the screen. Schedule a press briefing for 5 o'clock. I'll speak then. Under what title? Elena looked at her reflection in the glass. Helix CEO, acting chair, pending transition. Maya's eyes widened. You're taking his seat? I'm preventing a vacuum, Elena said simply. At 3:17 p.m., Robert Kane entered the boardroom for the last time. Marjorie Ellis and 4 other directors were waiting. He didn't sit. Let's skip the formalities, Robert said. You've already made your decision. Marjorie kept her tone flat. We have. Your resignation will be effective at end of day. This is betrayal, he hissed. This is consequence, she replied. He stared at her, then at the others. She's turned you all into cowards. No, Marjorie said. She turned us into survivors. Robert laughed once, bitter. You think she won't come for you next? Marjorie stood. She doesn't have to. We'll adapt. You won't. She handed him an envelope. The official statement's already drafted. Legal reviewed it. You'll read it at 5. He opened his mouth, then closed it. The fight was gone. He took the envelope and walked out. At 5 p.m., the lobby of Helix Tower was once again filled with cameras. The same space that had witnessed humiliation now hosted transformation. Robert Kane stepped to the podium. His voice trembled slightly. Effective today, I am stepping down as chairman of Helix Corporation. I do so to ensure stability and continued progress under our CEO, Ms. Elena Brooks. He paused, forcing a smile that didn't reach his eyes. I have every confidence in her leadership. Flashes went off. Reporters shouted questions. Robert turned, walked off stage, and into history. Seconds later, Elena appeared. She didn't wait for applause. Leadership, she said, isn't inherited. It's earned. Mr. Kane's resignation marks a new chapter for this company, one built on transparency, equality, and accountability. That's not branding. It's our operating system. A reporter called out, Ms. Brooks, how does it feel to remove the man who tried to remove you? Elena looked straight into the camera. It's not about removal. It's about correction. Another asked, what's next for Helix? She smiled faintly. Now, we work. That night, the footage played on every major network. Some called it the cleanest coup in corporate history. Others called it justice in a tailored suit. Inside Helix, employees stayed late, watching, talking, reevaluating what leadership meant. At 11:30 p.m., Elena sat alone in her office again. The city lights stretched across the glass. Adrian entered quietly, carrying 2 cups of coffee. You did it, she said. Elena shook her head. No, he did it to himself. Adrian sat across from her. You understand you've just made yourself the most powerful woman in the industry? Elena took a sip of coffee. Power's not the goal. Control is. Control of what? The narrative, Elena said. Because whoever controls that controls everything else. She leaned back in her chair, eyes on the skyline. The funny thing about empires, she added quietly, is they don't collapse from the outside. They rot from the top. I just replaced the roof before it caved in. Adrian nodded slowly. And now, Elena said, we rebuild properly. Outside, the Helix sign glowed against the night. Bright white letters against black glass. For the first time in its history, the building didn't feel like a monument to power. It felt like proof of consequence. 2 weeks after Robert Kane's resignation, Helix Tower no longer looked the same. The lobby walls were stripped of the old slogans. The oversized portraits of past chairmen were gone. In their place, the new motto was etched in steel letters. Respect is policy. Every department was under review. Every manager was nervous. Every rumor felt like a report in progress. At 7:30 a.m., Elena Brooks walked into the war room, a glass conference suite on the 43rd floor. 6 executives waited inside. They stood when she entered. She didn't tell them to sit. Adrian Lee followed, tablet in hand. Today's agenda, she said, restructure, compliance, communications, and federal relations. Elena nodded. Let's get started. Elena opened the folder in front of her. Effective today, Helix Security Division is dissolved. All contracts terminated. Every officer reassessed individually. The head of operations, Michael Tran, looked up. That's over 200 employees. Then start reading resumes, Elena said. We rebuild from scratch. Michael hesitated. Replacing an entire division will slow production. So will lawsuits, she said flatly. Your choice. He fell silent. Elena turned to Adrian. Legal, already in motion. We're using an external compliance firm to oversee rehiring. 0 internal influence. Good, Elena said. I want a system that can investigate me if necessary. That's how you prove it's real. Across the table, a VP muttered under his breath. That's suicide. Elena heard it. No, she said calmly. That's leadership. Adrian projected a chart. Since the board overhaul, 184 new internal complaints filed, mostly from lower-level staff. 96% verified. Keep them coming, Elena said. A director frowned. You're encouraging employees to turn on management. I'm encouraging truth, she said. If truth kills someone's job, they weren't fit for it. Morale could take a hit. It's not morale I'm fixing, Elena said. It's rot. The director of public affairs, Sandra Holt, cleared her throat. Media interest remains high. You're being asked to speak at Stanford, MIT, and the Global Ethics Forum. We recommend selective appearances too. Elena interrupted. No interviews. No panels. The story's done. Sandra looked confused. But the public still wants. They want spectacle, Elena said. We're done performing. From now on, Helix speaks through results. Adrian tapped her tablet. We'll issue quarterly transparency reports instead. Real data. No PR spin. Elena nodded. That's our voice now. Adrian pulled up a confidential memo. The Department of Labor and the DOJ want to formalize a partnership to model Helix's reforms as a national framework. One of the executives raised an eyebrow. That's unprecedented. It's leverage, Elena said. We'll cooperate, but on our terms. They get the blueprint. We keep the control. Adrian added, they also want you to testify before Congress next quarter. Elena's tone didn't change. Then I'll testify, but I'll choose the headline. By 10 a.m., the meeting ended. The executives filed out slowly, whispering. Adrian stayed behind. You just wiped out a third of your upper management, she said. Elena stood by the window, watching the city below. I didn't wipe them out. I exposed them. And the board? Adrian asked. They'll stay quiet for now, but power always reorganizes itself. I know, Elena said. That's why I'm moving faster than they can adapt. Later that day, 3:45 p.m., Elena walked the factory floor for the first time since the incident. Workers stared, some uncertain, some admiring. A woman in overalls stepped forward. Ma'am, you're really down here? Yes, Elena said. Why wouldn't I be? CEOs don't usually visit the floor unless there's cameras. Elena looked around. Then tell everyone this isn't for cameras. It's for context. The woman smiled slightly. My name's Carla. Carla, what's the worst part about working here? The woman blinked. You want me to be honest? That's the rule. The supervisors. Some of them talk to us like we're trash. No one listens unless we threaten to quit. Elena nodded slowly. Noted. She turned to her assistant. Find out who manages this floor. Already on it, Maya said. Carla hesitated. Are things really changing? Elena met her eyes. They already have. She walked on. 8 p.m. Elena's office was quiet. The skyline glowed, faintly red. Adrian entered with a glass of water and a stack of folders. These are the new leadership candidates, she said. Security, operations, ethics, and HR. We vetted them through external agencies. Elena flipped through the pages quickly. Background checks. Clean. Connections to Kane? None we can prove. Then good enough for now. Adrian sat down. You realize you're building an empire of transparency. That only works until someone tries to weaponize it. They already will, Elena said, which is why we get ahead of it. Adrian studied her. Do you ever stop thinking about control? Elena smiled faintly. Control's the only thing that prevents chaos. The intercom buzzed. Maya's voice came through. Breaking news. CNBC just aired a segment calling you the most feared CEO in America. Elena picked up the remote, turned on the wall screen. A commentator's voice filled the room. Whether you love her or hate her, Elena Brooks has rewritten the rules of corporate accountability. Helix's new reforms are being studied by Fortune 500 firms nationwide. Adrian said softly, You're becoming a symbol. I don't want to be a symbol, Elena said. Symbols get shot at. I want to be infrastructure. 10:45 p.m. Elena stood alone in the boardroom. The city lights reflected off the glass table. In the silence, she reviewed the day's reports, turnover, audits, complaints, progress. Maya entered quietly. Everyone's gone home. I'm not done, Elena said. You never are, Maya replied. That's why they can't touch you. Elena looked up. They can. They just haven't figured out how. Maya hesitated. You changed everything in 3 weeks. Doesn't that scare you? Elena closed the folder. If it doesn't scare me, it's not big enough. The next morning, the New York Times ran the headline. Inside the Helix overhaul. How Elena Brooks turned crisis into blueprint. Underneath it, a quote from her speech. Accountability isn't punishment. It's proof that the system still works. Across the country, corporations began announcing their own reforms, citing Helix as precedent. Regulators called. Universities requested case studies. What had started as one woman's humiliation had become a nationwide model. And yet, inside Helix, power trembled quietly. Old alliances shifted underground. Whispers spread of the next move, of waiting her out. Elena knew she was already preparing, because in her world, every victory was temporary, and every silence meant someone was planning. She looked out over the city from her office window, eyes calm, voice steady. "Let them plan," she said to no one. "I'm already 3 steps ahead." Washington, D.C. 2 months later. The conference room of the Senate Oversight Committee was packed. Cameras, reporters, aides. Elena Brooks sat in the witness chair, navy suit, calm posture, 0 notes in front of her. Behind her, the Helix logo appeared on the screen. A senator leaned forward. "Ms. Brooks, some would say you've centralized too much authority. That Helix now answers to you alone." Elena looked directly at him. "Helix answers to its results, Senator. I just make sure the math is correct." "You've fired over 300 executives in 90 days, he pressed. "That's not reform. That's purging." "Then maybe the system needed a purge," she said. "Helix survived. That's the proof." The senator's expression tightened. "You make it sound simple." "It usually is," Elena replied. "People complicate it to hide things." The room fell silent for a beat. Back in New York, the Helix legal war room buzzed with activity. Adrian Lee fielded 3 calls at once, all from different federal offices. "SEC wants to review our new compliance model," she said into her headset. "Tell them to send a subpoena." Elena's voice came through the speaker. Adrian paused. "You serious?" "Completely," Elena said. "If they want transparency, they can have it officially." Maya stood nearby with a tablet. "You know, they're not just checking compliance, right? They're looking for ammunition." "I'm aware," Elena said. "That's why we'll hand them bullets made of data." Later that night, the New York Journal published a front-page expose. Anonymous whistleblower alleges data manipulation at Helix. Adrian stormed into the CEO's office. "They're claiming we falsified diversity metrics. It's coordinated." Elena didn't look surprised. "Which outlet ran it first?" "The Journal." "Then it's political," Elena said. "That paper's been protecting Kane's friends for 20 years. Adrian dropped the article on her desk. "They've got emails. Fake or not, it'll spread." Elena read the headline once, then said, "Good. Let it." Adrian blinked. "You want this?" "I want noise," Elena said. "Noise hides movement." 3 floors down, the communications team was panicking. Sandra Holt, the public affairs director, waved a printout. "We need a response now. Denials, statements, something." Elena entered the room. The chatter stopped instantly. "You want to respond?" she asked. "Then respond with evidence." Sandra hesitated. "We don't have the raw data ready." "Then make it ready," Elena said. "Tonight. Publish everything. Payroll demographics, HR audits, time-stamped and verified." "You mean all of it?" "All of it," Elena repeated. "Transparency isn't selective. If we're going down honest." By morning, Helix's internal transparency portal went live to the public. Every statistic was available: salaries, promotions, complaints, resolutions. No company had ever done it before. The reaction was instant. The Guardian. Helix sets new global standard for corporate openness. Fox Business. Brooks gambles everything on radical transparency. Bloomberg. Helix exposes itself and rivals by comparison. The fake whistleblower story collapsed within 48 hours. Every email was traced back to a consulting firm owned by one of Kane's old allies, now under federal investigation. Adrian dropped the final report on Elena's desk. "You were right. It was planted." Elena nodded. "Predictable. You realize you just made half of corporate America look corrupt by comparison?" "I didn't make them look corrupt," Elena said. "I just gave people a mirror." But not everyone admired her. Behind closed doors, boardrooms across Wall Street whispered about the Helix problem. Elena's reforms had triggered stockholder demands elsewhere. Employees everywhere wanted what Helix had: protection, transparency, proof. The backlash began. A leaked memo from the Chamber of Commerce accused Elena of destabilizing corporate hierarchies. An anonymous think tank published a white paper calling her model a dangerous precedent. At the same time, political operatives started calling it the Brooks effect. Elena saw it for what it was: the system fighting back. That Friday, Adrian entered her office holding 2 folders. "One's an invitation from the White House," she said. "They want you on an economic reform panel." And the other? A subpoena. Congressional inquiry into Helix data handling. Elena smirked. "Both in the same week. Progress." Adrian sighed. "They're baiting you." "Then I'll take the bait," Elena said. "But I'll set the hook." D.C., 3 weeks later. The congressional hearing was live on national television. The panel chairman leaned forward. "Ms. Brooks, we've received multiple complaints about Helix's data access. Employees allege surveillance practices. Then investigate." Elena said simply. "You're admitting to tracking your staff?" "I'm admitting to recording misconduct before it happens," she said. A murmur rippled through the room. "Isn't that unethical?" the chairman pressed. "It's efficient," Elena replied. "Ethics are what people invoke when they've run out of accountability." The crowd reacted audibly. Cameras clicked. That night, clips of her testimony went viral again. Some called her ruthless. Others called her revolutionary. Adrian watched the replay with her. "You just humiliated Congress on live TV." Elena didn't look away from the screen. "No, I reminded them they're employees too." Helix HQ, 2:15 a.m. The building was dark except for the CEO's office. Elena stood over the window, city lights glinting in her reflection. Maya entered quietly. "There's movement," she said. "One of the investment groups aligned with Kane is mobilizing. They want a vote of no confidence." Elena turned slowly. "Let them. They're serious," Maya said. "They're rallying pension funds, unions, international partners." "I said let them," Elena repeated. "The higher they climb, the harder the fall." Maya hesitated. "You already have a plan, don't you?" Elena handed her a flash drive. "And there are 3 terabytes of internal reports. Proof that every one of those investors used tax havens while demanding ethics reform. If they push, we publish." Maya looked at the drive like it was radioactive. "This could destroy them." Elena's tone stayed calm. "That's the point." The next morning, Reuters broke the story first. Exclusive. Leak reveals widespread offshore tax abuse among Helix investors. The market convulsed. Within hours, the no-confidence coalition evaporated. By noon, the same investors released statements praising Helix's commitment to integrity. Adrian walked into Elena's office holding her phone. "They're calling you untouchable." Elena's voice was even. "No one is untouchable. I'm just faster." Adrian looked at her. "You do realize you're winning every fight?" Elena smiled faintly. "No, I'm ending them before they start." That evening, she sat in silence, watching the news ticker scroll beneath her reflection. It listed her achievements like a scorecard: reforms, lawsuits dropped, investigations cleared. But behind every victory was a new enemy, regrouping. She knew what came next: retaliation disguised as reform, pressure from higher powers, the quiet hands of influence. And she was ready. She picked up her phone and called Adrian. "Start building the next firewall," she said. "Legal, political, digital, everything." Adrian's voice came through the line. "Against who?" Elena looked out over the skyline, her tone cold and measured. "Against everyone." The flash of cameras hit first. Rows of reporters filled the chamber, their lenses tracking every movement as if the air itself might turn into evidence. "Elena Brooks, CEO of Helix Corporation, please take your seat," the congressional clerk announced. Elena walked to the witness table, black suit, steady eyes. No smile, no pretense. Behind her, the Helix logo glowed faintly on the projection screen. Patrick Doyle's assault video, now viewed 50 million times, had ignited a national uproar. Today's hearing was meant to decide whether Helix had fostered a culture of discrimination and abuse of power. Across the table sat Representative Karen Holt, chair of the Committee on Corporate Ethics. Beside her were 12 members, some hostile, some cautious, all ready to make a name. Holt leaned forward. "Ms. Brooks, this committee has reviewed disturbing evidence from your company. A senior security officer physically assaulted you in the lobby of your own headquarters. We've seen the footage. What we want to know is this: how did your corporation get to that point?" Elena met her stare. By believing power protects itself, she said. It doesn't. It only hides rot until someone shines a light. A murmur rippled through the chamber. Holt adjusted her glasses. Ms. Brooks, you've been accused of retaliation, of terminating Patrick Doyle to protect your image, rather than to enforce accountability. Care to respond? Elena's tone was even. I didn't terminate him to protect my image. I terminated him because he hit his CEO in front of 200 employees, because he called me a rat and ordered me to stay out of my own building, because Helix will never again tolerate that kind of violence under the excuse of protocol. One congressman smirked. So you made an example of him. I made a standard, Elena said. He raised a document. And yet your company's internal audit found 12 complaints of similar misconduct under your leadership. Yes, she replied. And unlike my predecessors, I investigated all 12. 9 resulted in termination. 3 are still under review. That's what accountability looks like when the person in charge isn't afraid of what she'll find. The room went quiet again. Holt pressed on. Ms. Brooks, the committee also has reports that you ordered a full review of Helix's security division, bypassing union consultation. You froze bonuses, suspended supervisors, and turned internal footage over to federal investigators without board approval. Isn't that a gross overreach of executive authority? No, Elena said. It's what leadership looks like when you stop pretending corporate misconduct is just a PR issue. This wasn't a breach of optics. It was a breach of humanity. A male senator at the end of the table interjected. Let's be clear, Ms. Brooks. You're saying your own corporation failed under your watch. I'm saying it was failing long before me, she replied. I just stopped covering the cracks with paint. Laughter broke from the press rows. The senator's jaw tightened. Holt raised a hand for order. Ms. Brooks, what do you say to critics who claim your response to the assault was driven by personal anger, not policy? Elena leaned slightly toward the mic. They're right about one thing. It was personal, but not because of the slap. Because every woman in that lobby froze instead of stepping forward. Because every bystander recorded instead of intervening. Because the system inside Helix taught them that silence was safer than truth. That's what I took personally. The gallery went still. Representative Holt exchanged a glance with her counsel. Ms. Brooks, the committee has also reviewed evidence that your internal reforms led to a 30% drop in revenue this quarter. Investors call your ethics drive a liability. Are you prepared to defend that? Yes, Elena said. Profit without principle isn't growth, it's rot. If Helix loses 30% of its revenue to gain 1% of its integrity, that's a trade I'll make every quarter. A congressman scoffed, spoken like someone who's never had to face shareholders. I face them every day, she said. I just don't bow to them. The crowd murmured again, half impressed, half scandalized. Holt tapped her pen. Ms. Brooks, there's also the matter of your pending federal collaboration. You've handed thousands of internal documents to the Justice Department. Do you realize what kind of precedent that sets? Yes, Elena said. A good one. The chair frowned. That decision cost your legal team millions in liability coverage. And it saved the company billions in corruption, Elena replied. Some like costs more upfront. From the back of the chamber, cameras clicked like gunfire. Holt's tone hardened. Ms. Brooks, one last question. If you had the chance to go back to that morning, before Patrick Doyle hit you, before all of this, would you have done anything differently? Elena paused. Yes, she said quietly. I would have walked into that lobby, wearing my name badge. A ripple of surprised laughter cut through the room. Then she added, not because I needed people to know who I was, but because I wanted them to see who they were talking to when they decided to humiliate a woman for walking through her own company. Holt studied her for a moment, then closed the folder. Ms. Brooks, this committee will recess for deliberation. Elena stood. The room erupted in flashes again. Reporters shouted questions. Do you plan to resign? Are you cooperating with federal oversight? Is Helix still stable after the audit? She ignored them all, walking out of the chamber with the same calm control she had carried through the entire ordeal. Outside, her driver waited. As she stepped into the car, her phone buzzed. An email from the Department of Labor. Subject: Formal Commendation, Corporate Accountability Initiative. Elena stared at it for a second, then closed the phone without smiling. The world would call today a victory, but she knew it wasn't. Not yet. Helix had survived the hearing. But the verdict, she thought, wasn't for her. It was for every employee still afraid to walk through those glass doors with their head held high. 6 months later, the Helix headquarters didn't feel the same. The marble floors still gleamed, but the silence had changed. It wasn't fear anymore, it was focus. Employees moved through the lobby without looking over their shoulders. No one lowered their voice when an executive passed by. A new brass plaque stood by the reception desk. Respect is not policy. It's minimum compliance. E. Brooks. Patrick Doyle's trial had ended in a plea deal, guilty on all counts. The footage had been replayed in corporate ethics seminars nationwide. He lost everything: pension, clearance, reputation. But his name became shorthand for something bigger the moment the line finally broke. Helix's board had changed too. 3 directors resigned after federal findings confirmed decades of ignored complaints. Elena replaced them with people who had no interest in protecting reputations, only results. At 8:45 a.m., Elena entered through the same glass doors where it had all begun. A new security officer greeted her, posture straight, tone professional. "Good morning, Ms. Brooks." She nodded once. "Morning." No one stared. No one whispered. The cameras that once caught a slap now recorded routine arrivals. Normal was finally ethical. Upstairs, the executive conference room buzzed with the week's review. CFO Dana Patel was running numbers. Fourth quarter up 12%, she said. Internal retention's the highest it's been in 5 years. Recruitment. Elena asked. Applicants doubled, Dana replied. Apparently, people like working for a company that doesn't tolerate idiots. A few chuckles went around the room. Elena didn't smile. They like working for a company that tells the truth, she said. Across the table, Chief Counsel Mason Lee slid a folder forward. Final DOJ report. They're closing the oversight program next month. Full compliance achieved. Elena opened the folder. Any remaining settlements? 2 pending, both minor, Mason said. Nothing that threatens stability. Good, Elena said. Then starting next quarter, half of all executive bonuses go into the Employee Protection Fund. Non-negotiable. The room went quiet. Then Dana nodded. Done. Elena stood. We rebuilt this company once. Let's not need a second reminder. When the meeting ended, she stayed alone in the room. The city skyline stretched beyond the glass, cold and bright. Her assistant, Clara, the same woman who'd once whispered, "Patrick, stop," in the lobby, stepped in. The press wants a statement for the anniversary, she said. Do you want me to draft something? Elena thought for a moment. Just release one sentence. Clara waited. Elena looked out over the skyline. Helix doesn't erase mistakes. We document them. Clara nodded and left. Elena sat down, opened her laptop, and replayed the old footage one last time. The slap, the silence, the look of shock that followed. She watched without emotion, without satisfaction. Then she deleted the file permanently. Downstairs, the lobby clock struck 9. The day began again, ordinary and honest. Outside, a group of young interns walked past the building. One pointed to the brass plaque by the door. Who's E. Brooks? Another shrugged. The woman who runs this place. Really? Yeah, the second said. The one who doesn't flinch. Inside her office, Elena Brooks signed her final memo of the quarter. No speeches, no applause, just one line in her neat, deliberate handwriting. Accountability isn't punishment. It's culture. She placed the pen down, leaned back, and closed her eyes for a moment. For the first time in months, the building felt quiet for the right reasons. And for once, justice didn't need a shout. It was simply built into the walls.